The congressional hearing chamber was already tense before Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene even opened her mouth. It was supposed to be a committee session on tech accountability and racial profiling in AI, but everyone knew the fuse was already lit from the previous week when Reppers Jasmine Crockett had skewered a GOP-backed bill with surgical precision. The room pulsed with the energy of television cameras, aides darting like anxious shadows, and a crowd of restless reporters. Crockett sat calmly at her place, impeccably dressed, eyes sharp behind her glasses, notepad full but untouched. She hadn't said a word yet, and still she commanded attention like thunder in a clear sky. MTG, seated across from her, smirked with the air of someone ready to detonate a carefully packaged controversy. When the gavel sounded and the floor was opened for statements, Greene pounced like a rattlesnake uncurling. Maybe if some members of this committee spent less time race-baiting and more time learning about real America, she spat, they wouldn't be constantly offended. Or maybe they should just go back to Africa if they think it's so much better. The chamber recoiled. A wave of gasps, muffled curses, and stunned silence slammed into the walls like a bomb. One Republican aide knocked over a water pitcher. The chairman tried to gavel for order, but no one could hear him over the rising tide of disbelief. Crockett didn't flinch. She leaned forward slightly, folding her hands, her lips curving into something between incredulity and restrained fury. "What did you just say?" Crockett asked, voice even but edged with steel. "Repeat that, Marjorie. For the record." Greene leaned back with performative defiance, her eyes daring Crockett to play the race card, as she'd mockingly called it on previous Fox News appearances. "I said what I said," Greene snapped. "If you hate this country so much, maybe you'd be happier in—" "Don't you dare finish that sentence," Crockett interrupted, her voice rising now like a choir breaking through clouds. "Because I'm from Dallas, born and bred. My ancestors bled into the soil of Mississippi and Alabama so this country could become the lie you now wave around like a badge. You think because you shout louder, you speak truth?" MTG's face reddened, not from shame, but from the recognition that Crockett wasn't going to play by the usual script. The GOP bench shuffled uneasily, while Democrats leaned in with a mixture of concern and solidarity. "You see me and think I'm a guest in a country I helped build. You see my skin and think deportation. That's not patriotism, Marjorie. That's cowardice. That's your ancestors talking, not you," Greene snapped. "You don't know anything about my ancestors." "Don't need to," Crockett said. "I hear them in every syllable of that filth you just spewed." Her words sliced through the air, and for a second, even the cameramen forgot to pan. Silence returned, not the kind that soothes, but the kind that braces for collapse. And then MTG stood, pointed a manicured finger across the table, and shouted, "You don't belong here!" In that moment, Crockett rose slowly from her chair. Not in anger, but in clarity. A shift happened, not just in posture, but in energy. Her voice now dropped into that low, historic register that black preachers and civil rights leaders have used when the world stops spinning. "Let me tell you something about where I belong," she said. "My great-grandfather picked cotton and couldn't vote. My grandmother cleaned homes so my mother could go to a decent school. And I became a civil rights attorney and a U.S. representative, not because this country gave me anything, but because I took everything they said I couldn't have and made it mine." Her hand thudded once on the table. "So when you tell me to go back, you're not telling me anything new. They said it to MLK. They said it to Shirley Chisholm. Hell, they said it to Barack Obama. And they will keep saying it, hoping that one day we actually believe we don't belong. But we do, and we ain't leaving." One Democrat whispered, "My God," under his breath. Greene's face trembled, with some volatile mix of fury and fear, because she realized, perhaps too late, that Crockett had not only disarmed her, but made her look like a caricature of white fragility in real time. "This is political theater," MTG yelled. "You're grandstanding." "No," said Crockett, turning fully to face her. "This is what truth sounds like when it's been choked for 400 years and finally breathes." The audience gallery erupted in clapping, some even standing, despite the chairman's frantic gavel pounding. But the drama didn't end there. As security approached to maintain order, Greene suddenly doubled down. "You think this makes you noble?" she shouted. "You're just another angry black woman using race to get applause." Crockett paused, smiled thinly, then did something unexpected. She walked around the dais, stepped down into the well, and crossed the room toward Greene. Not threateningly, not even quickly, just with purpose. Security stiffened, but didn't move. Crockett stopped a foot away, looked MTG dead in the eyes, and said with terrifying calm, "Let me teach you something, Marjorie. When you tell someone to go back to Africa, you are not insulting them. You are revealing yourself. You're telling on your fear of being irrelevant, your fear of being wrong, your fear that people like me, intelligent, unapologetic, unbroken, are finally being heard." Greene opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Crockett leaned in closer and whispered something the mics didn't catch, but Greene's face turned ghost white. Crockett turned, walked slowly back to her seat, then simply gathered her papers. No victory lap, no mic drop, just silence, her final weapon. As she walked out of the chamber without waiting for adjournment, reporters swarmed but didn't dare speak. Jasmine Crockett had turned a slur into a sermon, and in doing so, changed the temperature of the nation. And in a final twist no one saw coming, that night, a leaked video clip hit every major news outlet. An unaired backstage moment, filmed quietly during a break. MTG, red-faced and flustered, was caught speaking to an aide, voice raw. "Why does she get under my skin like that? Why do I feel like she sees me?" The clip wasn't supposed to be public, but it was, and America saw it. For a moment, the mask cracked, and in the days that followed, the fallout was seismic. MTG's approval numbers plummeted. Major sponsors of her re-election campaign began to pull out. Meanwhile, Crockett received invitations from college campuses, civic organizations, even late-night shows, not for entertainment, but for insight. She declined them all. Instead, she issued one simple statement. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. When someone tells you who you are not, show them. And with that, she walked into the Capitol the next morning with her head held high, while America, for once, followed her lead. It wasn't just Washington that erupted. It was the entire country. Jasmine Crockett's words, carved like scripture, out of generational pain and clarity, echoed across campuses, barbershops, boardrooms, churches, and kitchen tables. In a matter of hours, hashtags flooded every platform. We belong, Crockett clarity, go back where? Commentators on both sides tried to frame the moment to their liking, some claiming Crockett had hijacked a policy hearing for theatrics, others calling her the voice of moral accountability this era desperately needed. But beneath all that noise, something deeper had shifted. In districts far from D.C., places like rural Ohio, South Carolina's Low Country, and the crowded boroughs of New York, people weren't arguing over optics. They were remembering every time someone told them to go back to the country, to the kitchen, to silence. And somehow, Crockett's voice reached them like a hand stretched through history. In response, Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't retreat. She doubled down. In an interview with Steve Bannon, she snarled that America's being hijacked by professional victims and called Crockett's reaction a calculated performance, like something out of a bad Tyler Perry movie. Bannon laughed. "Except she writes better dialogue than you," he joked, trying to soften the blow. Greene didn't laugh. She seethed. But the most unexpected escalation came from within Greene's own party. The next day, a closed-door meeting of GOP House leadership was leaked to Politico. Audio revealed Representative Dusty Johnson calling Greene a growing liability, and Speaker Mike Johnson, normally stone-faced, was heard saying, "I'm tired of having to clean up her messes." The schism cracked wider. A group of moderate Republicans released a rare joint statement condemning racially inflammatory rhetoric, clearly directed at MTG, though they refused to name her. For the first time, Greene looked politically vulnerable. But instead of backing down, she scheduled a press conference. "I'm not apologizing," she barked from the podium. "This country doesn't need more guilt trips. It needs people brave enough to say what everyone's thinking." She didn't take questions. Meanwhile, Crockett maintained radio silence. No interviews, no media appearances, only work. She chaired a subcommittee hearing on housing discrimination that drew record viewership, even without fanfare. That restraint only amplified her power. But pressure was mounting behind the scenes. Death threats, slurs scrawled across her office. Door, a Capitol staffer caught trying to slip an envelope of hate mail under her assistant's desk. Her team urged her to hire private security. She refused. "Let them come," she said. "I've walked through worse to get here." The crescendo hit 1 week later at a CNN town hall in Atlanta.